I'm going to read a poem to you. Hang on while I get it up on the screen so I can read it. And this is, of course, The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler, long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Now, this is a rather famous poem by Robert Frost, who is a rather famous poet. And it's a good poem to talk about symbolism, because the symbolism and the metaphor in this poem is really very simple. Now, last week I talked about, the song by Audioslave and Noy's song, it wasn't a song originally, but Lorena McKenna put it to music, The Highwayman. And I Am the Highway is filled with metaphor and symbols. And we saw not so much in The Highwayman, but there are symbols and metaphor in The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. And of course, the big symbol in this poem that everybody grasps is that the roads symbolize or represent decisions that we make in life and how they affect us. And so if you were to talk about this poem and you were going to be writing a paper about this poem, you would discuss the surface meaning and then the deeper meaning. The surface of this poem is simply that the persona, and we'll call him he because Robert Frost is a he, is walking through a wood, and he comes upon two paths, and he has to decide which one he's going to take. Pretty easy. Now, if we look at the symbolism of this, the poems again represent, the paths, not the poem. The paths represent decisions that we make in life. And we even speak of coming to the fork in the road as having to make those decisions. And I love the old Bugs Bunny cartoon. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where he comes to the fork in the road and there's a big fork stuck in the road. That's not what we're talking about. We come to a crossroads. We come to where the path forks, and we have to decide which way we are going. And that decision is going to affect all of our lives, regardless of whether they are good effects or bad effects or even indifferent effects. Is still going to have that effect. And so in the poem, the narrator says that he takes the path less traveled. What does that mean? Well, I would interpret that as meaning that he took a path that few people take in life. Now, that would mean that he's not going to be swimming in the mainstream, but that he's going to be doing something out of the ordinary. Many people, Thoreau said, lead lives of quiet desperation. I see the narrator of this poem saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be different. I'm not going to necessarily blaze my own new trail, but I am going to walk in the footsteps of those few people who went before me, who didn't do what everybody else does. And this could apply to anything. It might have been Frost's decision to become a poet. And if other people in other professions and walks of life were writing about this, it could be politics. It could be just about anything. But it is the road less traveled. It is bucking what society says and saying, I'm going to do it my way. Now, at the end of the poem, he says, I'm going to be telling this, with a sigh. And so then we have to ask, was he sorry that he made this decision to go it alone? And I don't think so. I don't think that the narrator is saying, I'm really sorry I made that decision, and oh, woe is me, look at this. I think that the narrator is saying, and remember, in your papers, don't say, I think. Say it and prove it. I am saying I'm thinking because we're an informal, this is an informal lecture. I think that the narrator is saying this because regardless of the paths you take in life, and these are, big decisions, later in life you are going to wonder how it would have been if you had taken that other path. When you decide who you're going to marry, in the future you're going to wonder, what would have been if I had married Mary instead of Sally, or if I had married Tom instead of Billy Bob? You could be very happy with your life, but that doesn't mean that you won't wonder about what would happen if you had taken that other path. There are also some other aspects to this poem. For example, Frost says that he said, knowing that way leads on to way, I doubt that I should ever come back. And I think that this symbolizes how sometimes when we start out on a path, we think, oh, if I don't like this, I can turn around and go back. I'm going to take this job, but if I don't like it, I can quit. I don't have to work here. But yet sometimes when we set our feet upon a path, we keep on even later when we decide we don't want to do it. That's why there's so many people who are working in jobs that don't make them happy. So regardless of the fact that, the narrator says, I thought I could turn around and go back. The further he went down that path, the more that he realized he wasn't going to. There are some other things, smaller symbolisms that we can see in this poem. For example, what time of the year is this walk taking place? It's a yellow wood, so it's autumn. And on a broader perspective, autumn in a person's life, spring is birth and childhood, summer would be young adulthood, autumn would be old age or middle age and old age, and winter would symbolize very old age and death. Just as west symbolizes death and east symbolizes life or rebirth because of the path of the sun, which goes back, for centuries and centuries and centuries. Now, the interesting thing about this poem is Frost himself said it's not what you think it is. And he wrote that he actually wrote this poem about a friend of his who couldn't decide which path to take when they went out for a walk in the woods. So he's poking fun at his friend. Because Frost said that, does it change my interpretation and the interpretation of many other people? No, it doesn't. Because a poem means different things to different people. And if you can back up what you say with specifics from the poem, and you can back up with specifics from this poem, the interpretation about paths in life, then your interpretation is just as valid as anyone else's.